two skill testing questions come with a prize. So make sure you're listening and you're listening close.
1個目
We
来ま
are
した
going
か
to get the headsets. They are coming for now. You can use that
はい、
microphone.
同じ
Ladies
です。
and gentlemen,
RC マン
put
さん
your
で
hands
す。
together
はい、
for
こんばん
Paul
は。
Castellano.
Thank you guys. We're just waiting on a headset because I'd like to be able to show you what I'm going to be talking about. And I want to share with the people that are here to listen a little bit about myself first. My name is Paul Castellano. I'm a full-time fishing guide on the Niagara River and the eastern basin of Lake Erie. And I've been very fortunate to be working with Nishini Lure Works since he first came to Canada. And this is Hiroshi over here. And he is the creator and the designer of the product they're going to be talking about. And I want to focus on three things that I have found to be extremely successful, three presentations that have been very successful for me, my guests on the Niagara River, Lake Erie, at the spring of the year. Has anyone here in the audience used Nishini Lure Works product
声聞こえてま
before?
すかね、皆さん。
Okay, and everybody here obviously loves to fish.
はい。
Okay, I encourage you to, please guys, if you have questions or you want to see something, just put your hand up. But I'm going to put a little time on only three things right now. There's going to be all kinds of product at the Nishini Lure Works booth if you want to come see. But the first thing that I want to share with you, have you guys heard of the smelt head before? How many people fish with jigs here?
はい。これ
You know, how many people like fishing plastics and swim baits, etc.? Okay? So this lure here, I really wish I had that headset. This is one of the easiest and most realistic presentations that I've had with my guests. You can use all kinds of plastics on it. And in the spring of the year, guys, there's always an increase in water temperature. And as that happens, in the Great Lakes especially, and I'm sure in a lot of inland lakes, is you'll get a migration of emerald shiners and different types of bait fish that will seek out that warmer water that usually happens somewhere in the 40s. And everything is, it's a pre-spawn stage for, and this isn't just about bass fishing, this is for trout, this is for pike, walleye, etc. But everything that swims eats a minnow. And, you know, and sometimes using treble hooks is great, but the effectiveness and the versatility of just fishing with like plastics and different types of, you know, there's fat swim baits, there's straight-tailed plastics, little swim baits. It's a pretty easy method, but if you're a shore fisherman or a boat fisherman, you know, there's a technique that we have developed over the years, and we call it the steady eddy. And you're simply making long casts with different smelt heads, and they come in various sizes from very light to quite heavy. And the trick is just adjusting it if you're fishing shallow or deep, or in heavier currents, or shallow water, or less current. But by using the smelt head with your favorite style of presentation, it's a really effective way to catch rainbows this time of year, lake trout, we catch walleye in the Niagara River on it, and especially bass fishing. But it's something that I fish primarily. Hey Moose, you still there? Is there any word on that headset?
The headset is on its way.
Okay. Guys, this is something that you can fish with spinning or bait casting. You don't need crazy expensive equipment. But I typically, if I'm fishing on a spinning rod and I'm using the heavier, this is a 5/8, they have some different sizes. If I'm fishing it on a heavier, like a heavier head, and this is just a variety of like multi-species here, but we've got a chart here, and you can see the different sizes. But the heavier sizes, this is a 5/8, which you see at the bottom right corner. I typically would throw this on a stiffer spinning rod, 7/4, 7/1, you know, medium heavy. You don't want to have it on too light of a rod. A lot of times we fish it with my guests or by myself with braid with a fluorocarbon leader. And you know, I really wish I could show you, but and I will. Super easy, guys. A lot of times if you're on shore or you're in the boat, and let's say you're fishing for pike or you're fishing for bass, very long cast, close your bail, let it fall on a tight line, steady reel. Just get it swimming. Don't overwork it. I don't do a lot of twitches with it. I don't do a lot of popping with it, but just get the tail swimming with a swim bait, right? Super, super effective. And again, like I said, the trick with it is just to match the size of the plastic to the size of the hook you're using and the weight of the hook, the weight of the jig head. Like this is a very light one, and when you incorporate like a larger swim bait, you can crawl this over weeds, you know, over rocks very slowly in shallow water. Also works good too if you're in a boat. Also works good too vertically. Hangs really nice, very easy. So if you're using electronics, it's a fantastic bait to cut the water, especially with like a straight tail or fork tail minnow. You can jig it on the bottom, but if it's a very snaggy situation, they're really nice and you do lose them if you're making bottom contact. So I typically will fish these on my own or with my guests. We're trying to look for fish that are targeting, suspended bait fish. That time of year, like I said, in the spring of the year, there's fish that are always hunting minnows of some kinds, and it's very common to find a minnow that's like lost. He's injured, he's sick, he's wounded, he's by himself. And a lot of times that will happen mid-column. So typically you're going to find big schools of minnows or an area where fish are hoping to find minnows. And this is just one of those presentations, the smelt head that is caught. I don't know, we've been testing it now for at least 8 years, maybe 9 years, and it's been for sale. And has anyone here fished the smelt head in the audience? Yeah? Yeah? And you've had success with it? You believe in it? It's just, any jig head will work, but it's got a very unique wobble to it. The hooks right now currently are Gamakatsu and Owner, which is really nice, but it's going to be switched over to an Ichikawa steel, which is an excellent hook. But smelt head is one of those baits that if I had to take only 3 lures or 3 presentations, that would be my top choice. I do fish it all year, but it really excels for me and my guests when that water is in the 40s, in the low 50s. That pre-spawn, spawn period, and again in the fall. But it's a really easy style to fish. If you don't want to deal with treble hooks because you're catching pike, you can run a short leader with it. And it doesn't have to be just for the spring too. If you're an ice fisherman and you like to fish, whitefish, or you like to fish lake trout and do that reeling technique where you're getting fish to chase, the heavier sizes, they can be excellent through the ice as well. Does anybody have any questions about this? Anybody there now want to shoot anything? So I mentioned the spinning rod. If you're using the lighter sizes and the smaller ones that you see there, it's kind of the opposite of what I said. You want to focus on a rod that's got a soft tip. And I mentioned using like 10-pound braid or a 10 or 12-pound leader with the stiffer rod and the heavier heads. And the opposite, if you're using the smaller, I don't know if you guys can see this, but see how small this little guy is here? If you use a rod that's too stiff and a line that's too heavy, you're not going to get the distance casting. And also, if you set the hook too fast, you're going to pull the hook away from fish. So it's important to have something with the smaller baits and the smaller jig heads. For example, some people might like throwing a small 3-inch swim bait, especially in the spring of the year, especially when the emeralds are in shallow. If you have a rod that's too stiff with that, and you're doing that steady retrieve, and you react, you're going to pull the hook out of the fish's mouth. So it's really important. You don't have to have a bunch of rods, but if you have to pick one, I do find it's better to have something with a soft tip. And if you only have one and it's a little stiffer, your hook set with this doesn't have to be crazy. Like a lot of times we do. You guys know what a reel set is? Everybody know what a reel set is? So you're constantly moving the bait. You're doing this horizontal presentation where your bait is swimming, you're hoping to search for fish, so you're making long casts, searching, maybe like Dave and John and I are at the boat and we're fan casting and we're all covering water. When you feel that bait tighten up or you'll get that tap, the best hooks that I find is just increase your reel, have your drag so it will slip, not too tight, not too loose, and it's more of a sweep set as opposed to that sharp pop. So the sharp pop looks great on TV, but a lot of times with this, the way they eat it, if you do that pop too hard or you're too aggressive, you're actually going to miss fish or you'll pull the plastic off the back of it. It's common too for fish to bump, and the bait is really nice for that, but it's very common for fish to bump a lure, and you might feel that as you're reeling it. And again, I think people misunderstand or maybe don't have the confidence with this, but you really can't work it wrong. But the best way I find is if you could throw it out, and there's two styles that are really good, but let it sink all the way to the bottom and then reel it up on a 45, all the way back to the boat. Don't stop it, don't twitch it, and find the speed that works. But a lot of times it's just, a slow, steady, continuous retrieve. If you work it too fast, it might work, especially for trout. But if you work it too slow, the opposite, you're going to be crashing into the bottom, and sometimes deflection is good. But this is a bait that's pretty easy, very effective. Does anyone here not fish swim baits?
乗ってますね。
Does anyone here not fish plastics? What about you guys? In the back there, sir. Everybody's fished a plastic, right? Have you tried the steady eddy retrieve at some point in your life? Hey, we got a headset. This is better. Okay.
今ヘッドセットが届きました。
But the smelt head is one of those baits that if you're going on a fly-in, or you walk around piers, or you walk around docks, or you fish out of a kayak, or you have an expensive rig, it's a very multi-species bait. You know, we've caught pretty much everything that swims over the years with my clients and on my own. And a lot of times, especially when we're looking for fish, or we're fishing a vast area, it's an amazing search bait that's really versatile in the sense of what you can fish on it. So yes, vertical is good with it, absolutely. But the effectiveness of being able to cover water with it and the size of some of the fish we catch is pretty impressive. I don't know what they're doing here with the headset. The other thing with the spring, does anyone here fish? Who fishes pike or who fishes trout this time of year, right? You guys fish jerkbaits ever? Yeah? Have you heard of the Erie 115s? Yeah, have you fished them before? Okay, so I'd like to show you guys, another one for the spring of the year that's right up there. Maybe less applications, but still extremely multi-species and versatile. Like I've caught salmon on this, I've caught lake trout on this, walleye on this. Basically, if it swims, I've caught pretty much everything on this over the years. And Hiroshi, who is the creator of this, we actually tested this for 10 years. That's how much time he puts into it. 10 years before this was released. It's one of my go-to baits for trolling. Does anyone here troll spring salmon? Yeah. It's one of my go-tos on a board, especially for that like 10 to 15 foot column. One of the troubles I've had with jerk baits in the past is the hooks. The baits are amazing. There's lots of good brands out there, but the hooks bend. These are made Ichikawa steel. Has anyone heard of Ichikawa before? These trebles don't bend. Like you could swing a bass in the boat. The only time I've ever had an issue is a large salmon in the nets. But the hooks don't bend, which is a huge deal for me. They're a larger bait. Thank you. And if there's a jerkbait fisherman out here, is there anyone that's like crazy about jerkbaits? Yeah, you guys are crazy. So you guys know, Moose, a lot of times on a spinning rod, you give it, you work it hard, you snap it. This bait is a little bit different. Is that headset floating around? Okay, so the larger jerkbait, and you can see the profile of it, it's a bigger one, and there's two styles. There's one that's a medium diving, and there's a shallow diving. And it's got a very unique, I don't know if you guys can see it, but you see that external weight that's on there? You guys see the weight that's on the baits? When you buy it out of the package, it's got the one solid weight on it, which is a pretty unique thing. If you leave the full weight, this lure will sink roughly 1 foot per second, right? Now, the top one makes it slow floating. So if you want to work it very slow, almost wake it or have it touch and go weeds or touch and go shallow rocks. And then the second one down, when you cut it roughly where that lettering is, it will suspend the bait. It's always going to sit nose down. But this lure here, I think if somebody tried it before they spoke to somebody, you could overwork this lure. Like if you like to snap jerk baits, other brands very hard, which is how you trigger a lot of fish, this one is all about proper technique with slack line. Does that make sense to you guys? You create tension in the line, make it go tight, and then drop your rod tip towards the bait. You're going to have a little slack. You want a little bow, but then when you pull your rod, that bow lifts up. You need that little slack. You can't overwork it. Or sorry, you can't overwork this lure. One thing that I learned is from Hiroshi, you know how baits have rattles, baits don't have rattles? Everything makes noise. I don't know if you guys have ever done any underwater filming, but everything makes noise. So these do have an internal weight, but just the movement of the lure in the water and the clanking of the hooks a lot of times is a huge drawing factor. But this bait is one that if you like fishing colder water and you fish it slower, so spring of the year, again, we fished this and had success in 33-degree water temperature for trout. Caught all kinds of trout with that. And then for bass, I can't even tell you how many bass over the years we've caught testing this. but it's important. Don't fish it on light
33度
line.
ほど
I fish it a lot. This is straight
32度で
fluorocarbon.
0度なんで
I like it on a
1度
bait
とか
caster
そんな話です
myself personally. My preferred length is 6.5 feet, 6'9", maybe 7 feet, because I like that I can work it, you know, couple twitches, pause it, and with the suspending one, the second one down in the spring, you know, a lot of times it's like pop, pop, and I might count to 10.
今来ました
Just leave it there.
来ましたこんな裏話
Pop, give it one twitch, count to 5. You can keep it going all the way, but typically the warmer the water, with a bait like this, a hard bait, a jerk bait, you know, the harder you're going to work it or the faster you're going to work it. The colder the water, the slower you're going to work it, the longer you're going to pause it. But the steel of these hooks is what really blew me away, because a lot of other jerk baits, and I have a ton of confidence with this just because of results. I base everything based on results. So I've been testing, like I said, for the last 13 years. And you know, you hear a lot of stuff, but it's the proven results time and time again. But the hooks don't bend. Yeah. What's that, guys? Thanks, brother. So what's the deal here? Pop this in my back pocket. Mic is live.
木南隆さんですねお今マイクが来ま
The
した
morning technical difficulties.
It's all right.
It happens from time to
It's
time.
all right. How's this go, Moose? Like this?
朝一ですからまあいろいろ起こりますよね
Okay. Check, 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 check.
本当
We
です
got
よ
me?
ね
Can you hear me?
絶対誰も来ねえだ
Yeah?
ろう
All
と思って
right, now I can talk. Now I can talk. Okay, so bait casting equipment I find
ですよね
is ideal for this
人が来る気配な
larger
かったん
style
ですよ
bait.
ね5分
You
前ぐらい
can
ま
fish
で
it straight fluorocarbon. I use
会場で
16 a lot,
さっきのおじさんが
14. If I want to get it deeper, I'll go down to 12 pound. At times, I'll fish 20 pound if I'm throwing it around structure like docks or
Oh, thank you.
you know weeds or whatever. But if you're not a bait caster person, it's kind of the opposite. The jerk bait rod too.
Thank you very much.
What's really important
Oh, okay.
is
Thank
you need
Very
this.
nice
You guys see that tip? Right? And again, if it's too stiff, you're going to lose fish. You're going to rip hooks out. You know, they're going to pull and break your line. I fish it on a fairly loose drag too. I don't go crazy. And my hook set is never, you know, with a jerk bait, it's never that aggressive. You know, again, it's like you're working your bait, you're working your bait. It's important to have the slack. So I get it tight. You know, if I lift towards my bait, I'm going to get a little bow in the line, pop that bow out. And if you get bit, a lot of times it's just a sweep. That's all you got to do. My reel, always with a bait caster, I like a high-speed reel because I'm not really reeling the bait back. You can throw this out, wind it slow, absolutely, but it's got a really unique jump, and that's kind of what you're looking for, is that pause in between. It's going to sit nose down, but spring of the year, trolling, phenomenal, especially for that 10 to 12 foot zone, especially for kings. Got all kinds of linkers on it. And it doesn't get too, it doesn't break.
Thank you so much.
Right? I do fish it. It doesn't come with an O-ring, so I always fish it on a snap. If you tie it direct, it just doesn't work the same. If you put an O-ring on here, you don't need the snap. But this is a very strong Machine Lure Works snap. Fantastic. Doesn't break, doesn't open up. If you fish it on the spinning rod,
西根さんが、
that size lure,
他の方の
again, I like it
認
on, like,
め
see
られ
how
た
this
話
has
が
got
多
a
いの
tip,
で
but then
私が
it's all power.
Hi, I'm
It's
Papa
all
Sanga.
backbone. This is a 7.4 Daiwa, versatile. I put it on a 2500 or 3000, and you can make
説明してます
serious long cast. Cover a lot of water, 2-hand bombs with it, and then start your retrieve. The longer length, if you're in a boat, can be challenging, so you get like a sideways rip going.
ボートフィッシング
Rip,
が多い
rip,
ん
rip.
で
You know,
ボートの場合の
pause,
釣り方を
rip.
説明してま
You
す
can snap up with it and it will change the cadence. So there's options. Braid to fluoro is good, gives you way better feel. I like the forgiveness of straight fluorocarbon. I like how it
こ
doesn't
の
just
責
rip
任者の
hooks
人が
out.
挨拶したいみたいな話で
I do fish it at times too on a bait caster with braid, and I'll go heavier, I'll go like 15 pound, again with like a 16 pound leader. But it's tricky. You got to tie an FG knot. I don't know if you guys know that knot. It's a little tricky to learn, but it goes through the guides a lot better. And you have to fish the leader a little shorter. So there's options on how to fish the jerk bait, but it's a larger jerk bait, and I feel like it's just misunderstood. But the key, guys, if you do try this product, especially that jerk bait, don't work it as hard as traditional jerk baits, especially if you're a bass fisherman. You know, and if you're trolling, it's a great lure in cold water around like 1.8 to 2.5. You know, I've caught walleye on it also, but spring kings, it's phenomenal on pike. It's great on trout. The only problem with trout I found with it is there's a lot of hooks, and it's like they roll around. So if you're worried about that, you can pinch the barbs just in case, right? But that's been one of our go-tos. There's the other style that he has shown here. You see that double weight system? Hiroshi and I, over the years, we've tried so many different scenarios, but we actually have had success in 36 feet of water in Lake Erie. We've allowed that to sink 30 seconds to 1 minute down, and then you start your retrieve. Or you guys know what strolling is? It's a technique you're continuously using your trolling motor, essentially like you're trolling with your trolling motor, and just kind of keep it down there, letting it sink down further. But it gives a unique presentation sometimes in deeper water. So it's super versatile. The shallow model, the SD, we've got one here, you know, and then there's the MD. I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's just a little difference in, no, these are both MDs. Does he have an SD here? I believe there's one here. Anyway, there's just a little difference in the lip. You could probably tell by there, but if not, you've come by the booth. But the SD is one of my favorites. I don't know what it is, just something about the action. It's got a really loud knocker, it's got the weight transfer to it, but it's the durability, it's attention to detail, it's the way it moves water, but it's so important if you're casting it to work it on slack. And don't go too hard. This is a bait that's designed not to be worked as aggressive as traditional jerk baits. Any questions on the jerk bait? Anybody? John? You had your hand up. No?
昨日とか有名な人ここセミナーして見てたけど5人ぐらいしかいなかった。やべえとか思って。
So the spring of the year, a lot of times what we're looking for are transitions, hard to soft bottom. We're physically like this is a boat thing, right? We'll relate to that. So for a boat question, transitions where two types of bottoms meet: rock to sand, big rock to small rock, mud to sand, mud to gravel, and we're also looking for bait fish. So a lot of those transitions are, you know, migratory for bait fish. There's smelts, there's emeralds using that. So it's the deep water question. You could throw it to isolated boulder patches. You could throw it along those transitions. You could target, you know, if you see on your graph, you're noticing, geez, there's a lot of bait. I'm in 31 feet and I keep seeing balls of bait in 18 feet or 15 feet, wherever the case is. That's where you could try that countdown method. Full weight or double weight. You figure out the sink rate. If you drop it in the water, you can physically see it fall. You know, let it hit bottom once, and then you know. So that's a scenario where you do that. There's a lot of times I've learned over the years with my guests that people are always trying to go to the bottom. There's so many fish that are looking up that time of year. They're looking for those wounded, isolated fish. There's the pack of fish, and there's always fish that are, you know, minnows in particular, that are like they're dying, they're sick, they're injured, and they're straggling. So it's very common for fish to be, you know, looking, especially in clear water. And I haven't really talked about that, but clear water, dirty water situations. In clear water, it's really common for fish to be, you know, looking, and that's what you're targeting. You're looking for that fish that's hunting, always. Especially with the smelt head, you're looking for the fish that's hunting. The jerkbait, the same thing, right? Just slow down the presentation when it's cold and increase the cadence when it's warm. At the spring of the year, typically we're dealing with, again, I'm looking for water above 40 degrees, under 53, and the steady eddy is what I talked about. You know, that steady retrieve with the smelt head seems to be one that's really good. I might accelerate it, but I'm not doing this with it. I'm not doing the twitch with it. It seems like over the years, this steady swim is really good. A float too, if anybody fishes with floats for trout, Niagara River, Saugeen, wherever I've been, you know, it seems odd, but fishing a straight tail minnow or the drop shot minnow, which I'll talk about in a second, on the small head, crappie, bass, walleye, but especially trout. We actually made this, Hiroshi, we made this one here originally just for trout, but this has been one of our number one downsized swim baits, Lake Simcoe, you know, Kawartha Lakes, Niagara River, etc. But under a float, you know, this is a deadly presentation, right? Or cast and retrieved.
今話が次の話行ったんですかね。
Anything else with the jerkbait? No? Okay, so I talked about the hooks. I'd like you guys, if you're curious about them, because there's a lot of product out there, and I use a lot of different brands. I've used Owners, I've used Gammies, I've used Mustang, I use a lot, but I was really impressed with the quality of this steel. So, you know, you can come up here after or head to the Machine Lure Works booth, pick a hook up, try to bend it. Take a look at the quality of it. I think the only problem is if you've got wool gloves on, you always get hooks. Right? The net, they can be problematic, but one of my #1 pet peeves is when hooks bend. You know, when lures break. You buy a very expensive jerkbait, and you know they break after so many fish, or the lip breaks off, or the hooks bend. I'm not joking, guys, and I'm sure other people can attest. They don't break unless you hit rocks or you hit the side of the boat. So I haven't had a lip break off. I haven't had a treble hook open up. A giant salmon, like over 20 pounds, rolling in the net, maybe a little bit. But other than that, really impressed with the steel of the Ichikawa. Anyone fished Ichikawa hooks before?
すごいシビアですよね、本当に。
Okay. So just a variety of colors. They've kind of got something for every different scenario. A lot of times this spring in the Great Lakes, you might have muddy water in one spot, stained water in another spot, or crystal clear water. So, you know, there's a lot of favorites. I love using, like if I had to pick one bait pretty much for every scenario, I love that white Pearl Flash. You know, it's good. Clear water, dirty water, visually I can watch it. Fish seem to react to it. I've caught fish on all of them. That ghost smelt is one heck of a bait, especially in clear water. But everyone's got their favorites, and they all really work well at different scenarios. But the weight is something different. You know, at first when I saw it, I was like, what the heck is this? Why is there a weight on a jerkbait? But then when you actually start to see the versatility of it, you can easily put them on and off. It gives you a little bit of extra noise, and it gives you options on fishing it as shallow as, you know, 5 feet or as deep as, like I said, we've caught and had multiple fish in like over 35 feet of water, 36 feet of water. This one here is pretty special to me. If you guys fish drop shots, you guys fish small plastics, right? Everything, like I said, for spring of the year, or any time of the year, everything eats a minnow, right? Crappie, perch, bass, pike, whatever, trout. This is a bait that Hiroshi and I designed. He created it, but him and I came up with it together, and it was from the Niagara River. All the emerald shiners you have, all the bait fish you have, and his attention to detail just blew me away. But this is a bait that, you know, again, if I wanted to fish it under a float, or on a drop shot, or on a jig head, it's one of my go-tos. So these would be, you know, if you guys were on a charter with me, or we were fun fishing, shore or boat, these are baits that we fish with success, my guests catch big fish with, and I guarantee you if you try some of this stuff, you're going to catch fish too. But the smelt head is great, the jerkbait is great, but this little guy is really special to me because, you know, you've got a lot of different options. It's got great detail, but it's the movement. It's buoyant, it floats, it moves really well. It's very, very easy to fish and very versatile to fish. A lot of times I'll fish it on a #1 or #2. You know, again, and I play with a lot of hooks, but this is a CT5 steel. It's Ichikawa steel again. Fantastic hook, very sharp. You know, it's got like a nickel finish to it, but they're, you know, again, I haven't broken them. They haven't bent on me. I've done really well with them. And Hiroshi's got something too that it's... Hiroshi, is this available yet?
Not yet. It's coming April.
2024? In April. Okay, so this is something that, you know, he gave to me in the summer to test. It's got a very unique bend to it. Never seen it before, and you tie it with a snell. So if you're curious about this, it's designed for drop shotting. And through testing, every single time it was in the roof of the mouth and almost hard to get out. That would be my only... But which is what you want. I wasn't having fish, and you can see where that's a traditional hook that we use, and very common to have it in that spot or in the roof. But there's something about when it's tied on the snell, that it stays straight. You have your dropper, and it was always in the roof of the, like inside palate of the roof of the mouth. So very, very unique. Never seen this design before, created by Hiroshi. The one thing in the spring, and there's that CT5 again, size 1, size 2. This here. This is something in the spring of the year for everything. Again, trout, but especially bass. for me,
この針なん
smallmouth
ですけ
and
ど
largemouth, cold water, shore or
はいされ
boat.
ます。4
The
月ぐらいです
lightest
か
jig
ね
head that you can get away with is the key with this. Can you guys see that? See how small that head is? I'm talking like 1/8 might be too
これ
heavy.
実は
1/32, 1/64.
タックルハウスの
Very important to throw it with the right
ヘッドバイヤー
equipment
の人とミーティング
Drop
1時間
shot
2時間
rod
ぐらい
for
し
the
たんですか
drop
ね。
shot.
その時にうち
You
の
need this.
新製品全部見ても
You
らったん
need
ですけ
you
ど
need that tip because a
彼
lot
ら
of
が一
times,
番興奮
you
したの
know,
は
even
この
if
針
you're
だったんですよ
casting
ね。
or you're fishing, you don't get a hard bite. You lift up and you see that little
俺
resistance.
はこれはもう
If the rod's
も
too
ちろん
stiff
仕入れ
and
る
the
けど
fish
自
feels
分で
that,
使うよう
he
にも買う
drops
って言
it.
ってましたからね。
You know, this is a presentation for fish that maybe are not that
また後
aggressive
で
or the water's too cold for them to chase the swimming smelthead or to chase the jerkbait. But this is a presentation that,
そうですね。
you know,
考えな
again,
かった
you're
です
looking
ね。
for that minnow that's wounded, that's out of the pack. But light line is key. 8-pound braid, 5-pound braid, 6-pound braid. I fish J braid, Daiwa J braid. The Grand, it's super smooth. I can make a really long cast with a light head. If you use heavier braid or a stiff rod, you'll get no distance. It's not the same unless you have a float to add weight to it. If you fish this on a heavier jig head, you know, and I've got one here, it still works, but you lose that glide. You know, I'll fish this, like I said, in 5 feet of water, 2 feet of water, you know, 30 feet of water. But if you're shallow and you've got rod tip up, and you get this little twitch going with your rod tip, little twitch, you can get that swimming in the column. You know, if it's too heavy of a head, it's just going to crash down. But I try to glide this. I try to like make contact, but more importantly, I'm trying to glide it. You know, so little twitches, reeling, little twitches, reeling. I'll put a 6-pound, maybe an 8-pound or 5-pound fluorocarbon leader. You can fish it on straight fluoro, but if you fish the same technique on a stiff rod and heavy line, you won't get the same results. If you just want to flat out catch everything that swims and you fish it on a very soft rod, you can fish it on the 1/8 ounce and it's good, but even 1/8 ounce sometimes for this technique is too heavy unless you're doing a continuous reel. But the light heads, and I've got a couple rigged up here if you wanted to see. I don't know if you guys can you see how small that head is from there? Tiny, tiny is key, but it's really important that you fish it on the light line. So if you're fishing the drop shot minnow and you have it on a traditional drop shot, you know, again, 7-1, 7-6, a little longer, but you see that tip? I'm always fishing the drop shot with the lightest line I can get away with. Couple reasons: more distance with casting, especially with a lighter presentation. It cuts the water better, less resistance there, so I'm getting that feel. Even in deep water with light line, over 30 feet, if you're patient and your line's tight, you have feel. You can feel the bait moving. You can feel if something touches it. And a lot of times with that presentation with the jig head or this is all you get for a bite. You know, that's it. There's not much. And if your rod's too stiff, they drop it. Traditional drop shot rig, weight on the bottom, hook up top, size 1, size 2. Distance is something that you got to play with. My general rule of thumb is that short to this high. It really depends. You can throw it long cast and swim it, even with the drop shot. So the weight's making contact, you know, and your bait's neutral. You know, you can let it sit, you know, throw it out and pin it on a spot and just shake the slack. Same deal, get the line. Maybe I can do it with this. See how my line is very hard to see, guys. I know, but see how my line is tight? And I drop it, my line is tight, and I drop it. A lot of times not moving the weight and keeping it in one spot. Put it up here so you can see it. But slack line, let it fall, pick up the slack, you feel the weight, stop. Feel the weight, stop. Especially if fish are really inactive, really neutral, that could be deadly. Or simply throwing it to an area, you know, and like kind of shake it in one spot. I might move it 4 feet, shake it in one spot, move it 4 feet, but fish it slow. The drop shot is one. Just fish it slow, and again, play with colors. Dirty water, clear water, but this for me excels for just getting bits, like just catching fish, especially when fish are picky or they don't want something this aggressive, this big, you know, and they don't want to chase. Or the other scenario is they've chased your jerkbait, you're on the pier or something, or you're on a dock and you have a fish follow, but he's not interested. If you have a second rod, it's a fantastic follow-up bait. If you have a fish attack another lure, a topwater or something, or you miss a lure, you know, this is my go-to follow-up bait. But the spring of the year, you know, these three presentations, but especially this light jig head one, it just flat out works. I do it with my kids, I do it with my friends, I do it with my own, I do it with my guests, and it catches all species of fish. I'd like to. Has anyone here met Hiroshi before? Hiroshi. This is the creator of all the product. This is my good friend Hiroshi Nishini. We're going to be at the booth. We have spent years testing the product, but attention to detail is everything, guys. Spring of the year. These are proven. This is how I make my living, right? This is how I make my living. This is how my guests come back time and time again by catching fish, having fun. But even on your own, guys, having you don't need the most expensive rods and reels. I love the Daiwa product. I love the J braid. I love the Samurai fluorocarbon. But it's really important to find the right rod, find something with a soft tip, you know, and fish lighter line. You know, especially with these finesse presentations. If you have a few rods in your arsenal, I highly recommend spooling up one with either 6 or 8 pound braid. Right, it does make a difference. The braid lasts a very long time. You just change your fluorocarbon leaders. You know, these are things that I hope you guys learned something. If you want to see these baits, you can come up. If you want to come over to the booth and talk more, you know, please do so. Does anybody have any questions? Does anybody? The question that John asked was, how long of a leader do I like? So on the baitcaster, John, the rule of thumb was with this, you have a hard time putting the leader inside past the line guide. Okay, so I typically won't run it more than 1 rod length plus to here. You need to be able to cast. So let's say 7 to 9 feet, 6 to 5 feet on the baitcaster. Now the opposite on the spinning rod, it's all personal preference, but I typically run anywhere between 15 and 25 feet of fluorocarbon. And for a couple of reasons. Retie, I retie a lot, especially with light line. If you have damage, you're constantly feeling, once fluorocarbon has any nicks in it, you got to cut it and retie it. The knot that you tie to join it, whether it be a double uni, FG, Alberto knot, it doesn't matter with the spinning rod, but it takes time and it's difficult if it's windy. So this particular one, this is an FG, it's the smallest knot. It's a little bit trickier to tie, but it goes through the guides the smoothest. So if I'm going to take the time to tie this, I typically will run that 15 to 30 feet for that reason, right? Yeah. Anyone else? UEG. UEG. Is there any questions?
誰かどなたか日本から質問がいますでしょうか。質問がある方いらっしゃったらなんかありますかとポールさんが聞いてます。
No, they're good.
They're all good.
Yeah. Guys,
we will go to the booth.
Yeah, guys, thanks so much for listening. I hope you learned something. Enjoy the rest of the show. I appreciate your time. I'm Paul Castellano from Cast Adventures, and come on over to the booth and we can talk some more if you want. Thanks, guys. Thanks, man. Freestyle. Okay, brother. My hands are so nervous. I'm so sweaty. Yeah, you think? Thanks, bro.
そうですね。すいません、皆さん
Yeah,
長
it
々
works.
と。
That was straight up from the.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure. My pleasure.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah, this is a great show.
Thanks, man.
My
Thank
question
you.
for you is I'm going fishing with my friends.
じゃあちょっと僕たちはこれ3つです。
じゃあポールさんにはちょっとまた後でブースに
はい
来てもらうので。
はい。ケースってありましたっけ、これの入れてるケース。あとじゃあこれで。よし。OK、じゃあ行きましょうか。Hi, how are you? Good.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, over on the Outdoor Canada stage.
Please stop by
at
our booth.
10:45.
Yeah.
Dan Dannemuller over here to talk to us a little bit about crappie fishing. Tips, tricks,
そうですね
techniques.
そうです
He's
ね
going to break down how to catch those wee little buggers. So if you're by the Outdoor Canada stage,
これ
come on
ちょっと
over,
今
have a seat. Recipe
これで
Dan Dannemüller will be getting started at 10:45.
ちょっと会場歩いてみましょうか。Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
see you later.
I'll come by
Yeah,
and
yeah,
see you as
please.
soon as I get a break between all
Yeah,
the-
yeah, yeah. You busy.
Thank you
Okay,
so
see you.
much. Thanks.
Thank you. じゃあすみません、会場を今
会
案
場を今
内します。
待ってみましょう。
トロントですね。
どっち行きましょうかね。
どこでもボートの値段出てるとか、
はい
こっちが行けば大和さんでも行ってみますか。
大和さんも後でこう一回ぐるって回ってみましょう
ぐるっと
か。
回ってじゃあ
はい、なぜか絵を売ってますね。絵を売ってる。
まあ何でもあれですよ。アクセサリーまで売ってますよね。
はい。
これコンスーマーショーっていうか一般消費者ショーなんで。
it's just
This way.
this way. Nearby Minkota, Radio
Minkota,
World. Yeah,
Hami
thank you.
Bar.
Thank you. これお菓子を売ってる。でこれはなんだろう。これソーセージとか売ってますよ。なんかね。
サラミとか、ね。
こういうのがいいですよね。はい。美味しそうですね。
釣り人好きですよね。
はい。
西根さんもちなみにいつも持ってきてます。
そうです。
釣りの時。
釣りの時持ってきます。ペパロニ。これはなんかバーベキューソースですかね。バーベキューソースですよね。多分ね。これでも今日人が増えてきましたね。昨日よりね。
あーすごいですね。
これは何？屋根の素材ですか？
あ、まあこの屋根とか窓とかの会社いっぱい出てるんですよ。
そうなんですか。フィッシングショーなのに。これマッサージ。マッサージ屋さん。
トイレとかね、ポータブルの。
ですね。トイレの結局コテージとか持ってる人が多いんで、そういうところで使うのに多分ね。
そうですね。
でここで昨日ちょっと出したんですけど、あそこにマス釣りできるタンクが水槽があってみんな釣りしてますね。これマス釣りタンクです。いますかね魚。子供ができるんですかねこれね。釣りね。おお、容器いるわ。容器いる。たくさんいます。でこれロッククライミング、ボルダリングっていうんですかこういうのって。わかんないです。ちょっとやってみたい。ちょっとこうぐるっと回ってみましょう。これはトーナメント団体ですかね。そうですね。でこれポンツーンボート。ファミリーが週末に遊べるみたいな。
これ全てカナダドルですので。
そうですね。37,000だから日本円で
370万ぐらいですね。
こんな感じです。ボートとか多いですよねやっぱりね。
フィッシング&ボートショーですね。
そうですね。そうスプリングフィッシング&ボートショー。ボートと釣り具メイン。アクセサリー屋さん。おー、かわいい。これくらいのボートがあると結構いいかもしれないですね。どこに行っても釣りできるみたいな。気軽に引っ張っていけて。
バスボートじゃないけどいいですよね。
これはウォールアイ釣るボートです多分ね。
これウォールアイ専用なんですか？
そうですね。でもディープ V なんで、もうすごい荒波の中でも走っていくやつです。でこれが僕欲しくてしょうがない。四輪バギー、アイスフィッシング。ね
そうですね。
え。これで
$15,000ドル。
これ$4,000です、ね。
ヤマハですか？
これヤマハっぽくない？あ、ヤマハですね。でこれ多分肉ですよね。でこっち4駆ですよね。で大きい方が。
これが
子供用。これ$4,000。
40万
ぐらいですね。
悪くないですよね。
悪くないですね。
あれで大丈夫ですか？
あれでもうあれかっこよくないですか？ブルーのやつ。
あれはね。
これかっこいいな。これはでもマジ車っす。
いくらですか？
わからんっすね値段。あ、これか。$21,500。なんで
車ぐらいしますね。
車ぐらいしますね。 こっちは有名なテレビホストの人が今セミナーしてますね。アメリカからね招待されて。
そうですか。
はい。多分これジェームス・リントナーさんってすごい有名な人です。すごい有名な。ミネソタの人だと思います。声がすごい特徴。
声が。
テレビとかやって
番組やってる。
そうそう。なんかアル・リントナーズアングリングエッジってすっごい有名な番組があって、それの息子さんだと思うんですけど、こんな感じ。Hi, Darren, how are you? Morning.
有名なボブ泉さんっていう方の息子さんです。
We are live streaming to Japan.
They said watching Japanese people watching. 今のがボブ泉さんの息子さんです。
ボブ泉さんってカナダで一番有名な釣り人の息子さんですね。
ジョイ君をちょっと紹介しましょうか。
ジョイ君いますね。Hi, morning.
島野のブース。
How are you?
We have Japanese Hiroshi fans watching.
How are you?
Yeah. Can you speak something?
Yeah, how's it going? Welcome to the Toronto Fishing Spring Boat Show.
What do you use for your lure?
My lures, we've got a lot of Nishine smelt heads. Let me tell you that. I buy so many of those things. I use them all the time. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Now, I want to try and get into the jigs because I have a couple of them. Haven't thrown them too much. But smelt heads are the best. And actually,
you like that?
You got me a couple custom colors too, so I appreciate that.
Of course.
That's awesome.
ジョイ君に言われてブルーバックヘリングカラーが欲しいって言われてで作った。いや、最初持ってたんですけどそれをなくしちゃったんですよね。で彼が欲しいって言ったから多分ブルーバックヘリングカラーを僕たちまた作ると思います。Yeah, I explain we got blue back herring color will be come back.
Yes.
Yeah, because you.
I love it. Not just me, the other Joey too. You got to take that.
いろんなもうトーナメントに参加してて。
One thing to 日本の人に。
すごいな、好きすぎて。
Small mouse. You look like you love small mouse.
Exactly, I do.
You need to have a large mouse here.
That'd be good, eh? That's awesome.
Okay. Talk to you later.
Yeah,
皆さん今後ですね、この方もジョイ君も見ると思います。ありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。ジョイティー君もいるけど。
よし、すみません、ホビーをちょっとだけ。
ホビー、はい。これホビーカヤック、ハイアンパパさんが相手ですね。これはもう最強カヤックですね。値段も最強ですけどね。
値段も最強です。これはもう前後左右もどこでも動けますから、
そうですね。このペダルを動かすと下のこれがこうやってなって動くんですよ。なんでThank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah. We live stream to Japan. Yeah. こうやってやるとこうやって動くんですよ。で浅いところとかウィードのところに入るとこれをやるとこうなるんでプロペラみたいに引っかからないですよね。でこれここで前進も後進もできるというね、ものすごいトローリングモーターぐらい。Can I put this on?
We have one.
Yeah. Who's the carver?
Me. I make that.
みんなやっぱり西出さんのことよく知ってて。
I do some wood carving.
Oh, okay.
で彼もなんかウッドカービングですね、
Yeah.
してるんだっていうことで話が進んでますね。
Yeah, please. Yeah, I display my knife, my tool too. Yeah. You can see my knife. Yeah, please.
これ何でしたっけ？レイクオブドリームスの画像とかで使ってる
そう。
カヤックがこれですよね。
このモデルですか？違うな。
まあね、今もないんですよ。スポーツっていうモデルで。
あれが後継モデル。
似てるますけど、前これ良かったですよね。
最高ですね。でこれがなんか新モデルらしいですよね。
ここはだから
これはなんか中空素材じゃなくて中がフォームで詰まってるっていう話で。で立てれるみたいですね、これね。最高ですね。
内部に配線とかできないんですね、フォームで。
そうですね。まあでもカヤックで実はカヤックが魚一番釣れるんじゃないかと思いますよね。実はバスボートとかよりも
遠くに行けないですよね。
そう。
静かに寄せられますし。
そう。でこれランドボートだね。僕もしボート買うなら僕このボートがいいですね。このボートがいいな。もし次ボートを変えるならね。
変えるならどれですか？
このボート、この1875かこれもう一個大きいこのモデルね。このディープ V なんですけど、
これいくらぐらいするんですか？
これいくらするんですかね。
あった値段がそこにありました。
78,598ドルか。まあ買いませんね。まあでももし買えるんだったらこれディープ V なんですけどバスボートのレイアウト。こっち行ってみましょうか。
抜けてもらえると。
はい。78,000ドルは無理っすね。78,000ドルこれに払うんだったら、とりあえず在庫強化と新しいモールを作りたいですよね。
いいですね。モールド代。
そっちの方にお金使いたいよ。まあとりあえず船は浮いてくれれば、とりあえず用足りるんで。トライトンボート。これマスキールアーですね。
すごいなこのマスキー。
マスキールアー。
マスキーカナダ。
マスキーカナダ。
どうですか。40センチぐらいありますもんね。
すごいですね。巨大なルアーですね。はい。Wow! Wow! How big this one?
That's a 15-incher.
15-incher. Wow! Wow!
But that's trolling.
Trolling. No casting. Oh, can I have this
持
one?
ってもらっていいですか。
Oh wow! It's heavy. How heavy?
That's probably 2 pounds.
2 pounds? Oh wow! 2 pounds.
But these are trolling.
Yeah. Cannot cast it.
You can if you have real good gear.
I don't want.
If you have bass gear, yeah, you can cast it.
So we are just live streaming to Japan.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. わあ、これはすごいでかいですね。People surprised. Musky Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Wow. Thank you for showing.
You're more than welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Very
those
easy.
hooks.
Yeah.
Big lures need big.
Yeah. I can scoop you.
Get in.
Woo!
Put your foot inside.
Yeah.
No, you have a license.
Yes.
こっち向いて。これが網に入ってます。
はい、網に入ってます。We must have this net.
Well, you know what it is? You spend so much time on the water, and
Yeah.
it's very hard to catch.
Yeah,
You don't want to lose it, right?
Yeah. So important.
When you get it to the boat is when the danger happens.
Yeah.
You lose it.
どうですかね。1メートルぐらいありますかね。
Yeah. Maybe you can scoop world record. Musky. No problem, right?
When they're to the boat, yeah, it helps the
Yeah,
back.
maybe sturgeon. Maybe. Thank you very much. あ、こっち。はい。あ、ダイワブースだ。今ダイワカナダさんのブースに来ました。
台はカナダですね。
はい。ここにありますね。はい、ウォーレン。Morning. Morning. Good. How are you? So we are live streaming to Japan. Yeah.
Japan.
Yeah. So ここで、はい、ベッシーが並んでます。これタックルウェアハウスで買えるんですかね、日本の方ね。
買えます。
日本で販売されるかどうかちょっと僕わからないんですけど、少なくとも今タックルウェアハウスとかフックアップタックルで買えるかなと。
このフローティングは、
はい、フローティングはこれプロペラが逆になってて、でこうアビの 110F と同じですね、コンセプト。でアクションも同じ、もうアビの 110F をもっと派手というかでかくした感じです。
スピード。
はい。でこれはルーンっていう鳥がいるんですけど、カナダの国鳥みたいな鳥だと思うんですけど、その色ですね。これね。はい。でこれマスキーカラーね、パーチカラーでファーストシンキングとスローシンキングがありますね。このケースがめっちゃ苦労しましたよね。悩んで、じゃあ次いきますか。
次。こういうショップが多いんですよね。なんか
そう
小売店さんが
ね、ブースで製品を見て、で欲しいのがあったらここに買いに来るみたいな感じで。はい。これはなんかめっちゃおしゃれなワゴンセールじゃないですか。
おしゃれだわ。
めっちゃおしゃれですね。これ木の枠。ここはタックルデポット。ここもうちのルアーなかったでしたっけ？ね。
ベッシーはバスにはどうでしょう。
バス実は釣ってます。結構釣ってます。ラージマウス、スモールマウス。
メルカリで16,000と言ってますけど。
マジっすか。
こっちは。
はい。 Good, how are you?
You busy?
Just now live
What you
streaming.
gotta do? My son says hello.
Okay.
Giovanni.
Oh, yeah. He's doing okay?
He's doing okay. He's just really busy with work. So
Oh,
he sent me. He says, go.
he gonna come?
He's gonna try. He finishes at like 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, you are famous in Japan right now.
Everybody's watching.
Okay, our booth is there. Please
You-
see,
Yeah, we'll come and see.
Yeah, see,
You're using
Okay,
Nishine?
thank you. 全然ブースに行き過ぎないです。とりあえずブースに戻ります。
戻りましょう。じゃあもう1時間ぐらいになるんで。
マジっすか。こんな夜遅くにすいません皆さん。まあ、こんな感じですカナダの。これ魚探屋さんのブースですね。魚探屋さんのブース。これは魚探のこういうマウントを作ってる
マウントの会社ですね。
でここがミンコタハミングバードのブースで僕たちのルアーを販売してくださってる会社のブースです。でその裏にはいジョン finally came back. Hi. Good. How are you? So. Hi. Hi. Good. How are you? Okay. I see you. Oh, really? Oh, thank you so much.
More stickers today?
Yeah, I have sticker. Yeah.
Could I have a sticker? I love your stuff. I'm a friend of Taro's as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Thank you. Oh, this is new.
Yeah,
New design.
new logo.
Very nice. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. So, anything I should be looking at? Anything new?
This top part is a new product.
Prop bait top
Live
water.
stream?
Look at that.
Live streaming now. So you want to say something about Nishine?
We're streaming in Japan.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody in Japan. Oh, what's that? Oh,
Oh, yeah.
welcome to the show, Spring Fishing Show in Toronto.
これジョン・ノエルさんですね。昔はもうトーナメントでずっとやってたバリバリやってたんだけど、今はミンコタ、ハミングバード、いろんなものをカナダ国内で売ってて、西ネルアワークスも一緒に売ってもらってます。
Yeah.
販売店ですね。
Also a better fisherman than Hiroshi.
Yeah,
much better.
You are my teacher. ジョンさんが最初に考え出したルアーが僕たちジョンスペシャルって呼んでたんですけど、エリー 115TW はこのジョンさんが生みの親。You are the father of this lure.
Well, kind of.
Mother?
No, I just asked you what to do. You designed it.
Yeah.
Somebody say best lure.
Oh, nice.
ジョンさんがすごい釣れるからこういうのが欲しいっていうので作ったのがきっかけになってます。で
That's my favorite lure in Canada, so I'm glad everybody enjoys it.
もうカナダでは最高で、ルアーの中で一番大好きだと言ってますね。
ですね。でちょっと新製品ちょっとだけ。
新製品ちょっとだけ。
Just give me little time to finish the live streaming for now. Yeah. So これが今年の新製品トップパート。
秘密はありますか？
秘密はないです。ここには
ない。
鍵を開けます。またこの新製品紹介またちょっと気を改めてちゃんとやりますんで、今日軽くはい。まずライブストリーミングで実況でもよく見てもらってたんですけど、まず出るのがこれですね。ベビーチッパワー RB とベビーチッパワー DD なんですけど、実はねブレードがつくんですよ。
これ秘密。こ
れは初公開ですね。ブレードついてベビーチッパワー RB とベビーチッパー DD を出します。これ
あんまり映り良くないです。
本当ですか。
すみません、こっちの方がいいかもしれない。
こんな感じですね。
We don't sell the product.
Oh, you don't?
Yeah, it's showing. They sell the product.
Yeah, you can find our product just right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll put these back.
Yeah. Thank you.
We can do.
For display to show. Yeah. Oh, thank you. I just keep doing the live streaming. Thank you.
Paul さん come back. ポールさんがブースに戻っ
もしポール
てきてくれました。
さん質問があったら今書いてください。I just ask if they have
Any
questions.
questions? Because we didn't want to make it too long. So
それで最初にベビーチッパーはその前に一番最初に出るのが
showing a new product for the job.
チッパー XDD です。これもライブショーでよく釣ってたやつなんでもうご存知だと思うんですけど。
これですね、カラーが。
はい、これです。で次に来るのが多分ねこれですね。あった。おお。
ナイフに。
シムコの新色3色出します。はい、ホログラムシャッド、ブルーバックヘリン、ブラックバックゴールドでゴビーカラーを出します。ジギングでよく釣れるんで、これはねめっちゃ釣れますね、五大湖でね。この色テストしてて、これを出します。で、あと
3色ですね。
3色出します。はい、で次に、ベビーアビノのフローティングモデル出します。こんな感じですね。これもライブでちょっとだけ使いましたね。でもこれはちょっとまだシークレットを隠し持ってますんで、これはもうちょっと近くになったらちゃんと説明します。
でもちょっと今日もう公開しちゃってるシークレットの目の色が
ね赤いんですよ。血走ってるんですよ。映ってるかな。
なんとなく
目がね赤いんで、色は一緒なんですけど目が赤いんで、それで見てもらえるかなっていう感じですね。
はい、ごめんなさい、ボケちゃった。
はい。で、これちょっと今年中いけるかどうかはわからないんですけど、エリー115じゃなかった、エリー 95MD ですね。はい。でこれがこんな感じで、これが SD でなんですけど、これが MD で、一番の特徴はここにフィンがあるのが特徴ですね。ここにフィンがあるんですよ。でこのフィンをカットしてもらうことによってアクションをね、ただ巻きで最高のアクションが出るモードとジャーキングですごいいいダートが出るモードっていうのを使い分けてもらえるっていう設計になってます。これまだちょっとね今年中にいけるかどうかっていう微妙なラインを走ってるんであれですけど、作ってます。で、さっきポールさん、これラストなんですけど、さっきポールさんが
これ世界初公開
ポールさんがセミナーでちょっと話してたものなんですけど、針をね作りました。こんな感じで出しますか、中。
まあそうですね、せっかくここまで来ちゃったら、また詳しい
話はまたしたいと思うんですけど、こんな針。これ本邦あそこ、昨日市川さんから届いたばっかり。
日本から届きました。
でこれはもう僕ドロップショットミノを使うのに、ベストな針とベストの結び方っていうのをずっと研究してたんですけど、どうしても納得いくものにならなくて、でもう最後はもう針を作るしかねえなってことで作ったのがこの針です。でこれは結構ね今あんまりちょっと説明しませんけれども、ドロップショットドロップショットリグをするときに結構ストレスに感じている部分を多分一気にいろいろ解消してくれるアイテムになると思いますので、楽しみにしてください。
じゃあこれはまた別の説明動画
そうですね。
というか、
ちょっともうここはもう落ち着かないんで、またちゃんとしますんで、それは
届いたばっかりです。昨日届いたばっかりです。
ドロップショットミノを使う針です。でももちろん他のやつも使います。
ネーミングは
西根 DS フックです。はい。
もうドロップショットフック使うための専用
です。ドロップショット
ミノを使うための、
もちろん他のものいろいろ使えるんですけど、ドロップショットミノ合わせて作ってます。というわけでこんな感じです。なんか質問とかありますかね、皆さん。
変わったフックですね。
そうちょっとねありそうでなかったフックだと思います。で糸を聞いてもらうと、
それは市川さん製かなって言ってますけど、
もちろん市川さん製です。市川さん
オリジナルで OEM で作ってもらった。
OEM を作ってもらいます。で
水平をキープできるんですねって言った。
それはもう
飛び飛びショッパーさん、
もう結構当たってますね。それもちろんそれをやった上でなんですかね、ストレスに感じたことを克服できるんじゃないかなと思います。
はい、バッグに入らないというランパーズさん、バッグに入らないっていうのは新製品で針は入りますからね。針はまだ入りますから。ランパーズさんがねいっぱい新製品があってもバッグに入らない。
じゃあ針100本ぐらい入れてもらうことで針オタクになって。はい。
じゃあそんな感じで。
そんな感じでいいです
か。長
くなっちゃって夜遅くまで皆さんありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。
また多分ね僕ちょっとキープキャストは多分僕は行かないかなと思うんですけど、ちょっと作りたいルアーがありすぎてちょっと工房で物を作りたいなと思ってるんで多分行かないと思うんですけど、ハイアンパパさんがいろんなプロと思って行ってくださると思うんで、またお近くの方はキープキャスト来てみてください。でキープキャストに行く前にちゃんとまた去年みたいな感じで新製品をちゃんと説明したいと思いますんで、
はい、僕の方は 説明できないんでビデオ見てから予習してから来てください
そんな感じです。
はい、ありがとうございました。
ありがとうございます。
Finish now. Yeah, I'm Paul san, somebody's asking what is your favorite food again.
My favorite food? Sushi. Sushi's my favorite. Number one.
What a question.
I had sushi last night for dinner.
ありがとうございます。皆さん失礼します。バイバイ。
ありがとうございます。
ランプレイさんありがとうございます。
おやすみなさい
洋介さんありがとうございます。ハイマックスさんありがとうございます。井上さんありがとうございます。牧田さんようこそありがとうございます。英語でわからなかった。うなずんさんもありがとうございます。
ありがとうござい
ありがとう
ます。
ございます。広石田さんがラスコメを狙ってんじゃないですか。輝くピッパーさんありがとうございます。
明日朝早いちょっと本当に
お疲れ様です。
ありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。マスタさん、マサヤンありがとうございます。じゃあ失礼します。
おやすみなさい。
ありがとうございます。
おやすみなさい。